Okay, good morning, everyone. Bill Lester here with University of Florida IFAS Extension in beautiful Hernando County. And the reason why I say it's beautiful Hernando County is because my co-host Lily Browning is here with us in Hernando County, also outdoors out
I
there.
went outside for this because it's so nice out here.
It really is. I mean, it feels like spring. By this afternoon, it might start to feel a little bit like summer.
Yeah.
And everybody's thinking, oh, winter's totally over. All the cold weather is gone. And I'm going to get out there and start gardening.
There's the reason I'm out here, Bill.
Yes, ma'am?
See this?
Yes.
Dr. Bill, I have prunitis. Can you help me with this problem?
Yes. When we start to get to the second part of winter and we start to have these warm spells, everybody starts to think that, oh, well, winter is definitely over. And especially for people who might be new to the area, who've just moved here and haven't experienced that many winters. Well, the problem with that is winter's not over yet. We can still technically get some more bad freezes.
It feels like it's over.
I know, it felt like it yesterday. It was pretty warm. I mean, yesterday afternoon, late in the day, I was in, shorts and tank top. Like
I was just thinking, yeah. I do have jeans and shoes on, but I could easily be in shorts and flip-flops out here.
Well, you need to resist that summertime pruning feeling, and you really don't want to go out there and start pruning everything right now because we might still get another freeze or frost.
No, it doesn't feel like it.
Now, there are things that right now is the proper time of year to prune them. Any crepe myrtles or fruit trees that you might have, now is when you want to prune them because you really want to trim them back, if you need to trim them back, before they start to leaf out and flower and grow, because you want to trim the branches back before it puts all that energy into creating new leaves that you're just going to trim right off. So if you have a crepe myrtle, a peach, plum, nectarine tree, what else? The few people who have apple trees, maybe you have a pear tree. Pears aren't really, not many pears do well here in Central Florida.
You should prune those. You should use one good pruning cut with your pear tree.
Now, I mean, don't get me wrong. I love pears.
Yes.
And there are some varieties of pears that grow just a little bit north of here. If you go up to Gainesville, they grow something called sand pears up there.
Oh, yeah.
That if you've ever tried them, the fresh ones are real gritty. So they're not really great for eating fresh, but they're really good for canning. But the problem is down here, a lot of them get a disease called fire blight, and that's going to take out your pear tree, unfortunately, pretty quickly.
Aren't Bradford pears invasive up north now?
Yes, they are. They are a bad invasive up north. So Sue is asking, is this live? Yes, Sue, we are live.
We are live, yes. I'm live out in my yard. That's why you heard that big truck go by just now. Sorry about that.
Yeah, we are live on our office Facebook page. We are live on our Facebook group. We are live on YouTube Live also. And then after this show is all done, it gets uploaded as a podcast. So we're live on a bunch of different podcast sites now also. So we're live all over the place. And Lily, I didn't have a chance to mention this earlier, but it just occurred to me that I've been doing this for about a year or so.
Really?
So I looked up in my records, and my first virtual plant clinic was last April 2nd.
I thought it was after March. Yeah.
So
March is when we were all sent home.
Yeah. We started this right around when everybody was getting sent home. And I believe the first one where we actually had other people on viewing it and asking questions was April 2nd. And the closest Thursday to that this year is April 1st. So I think April 1st is going to be our big 1-year anniversary show.
Oh, I could have fun with that day, Bill.
We will have fun with that. I think we're going to make it an extra long one. And I think I'm going to see just how many guests I could squeeze in
And
here.
that would be a great day to go over some of the, we can call them like horticultural April Fool's jokes. Some of the things people hear that are incorrect or bad advice.
How about everybody has to share the craziest thing they've ever heard as far as lawn and gardening from somebody?
That'd be a hard choice, but okay.
I know that everybody who works with Extension has quite a few to choose from.
Yes, we do. Usually, yeah, a lot of them involve vinegar or urine or
Yeah, lots of crazy things. Okay, we got a couple questions on here we can go ahead and knock out real quick, I guess. So, Facebook user, whoever that anonymous person may be, who is a regular viewer.
I think it's more than one person.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Because this Facebook user is asking, what vegetable plants are good to seed this month? Easy answer to that is we are just about middle of February at this point, and spring is right around the corner. So you want to get your spring garden all dug up, all prepared. You can start planting all those warm season vegetables as early as late this month, really within the next week or two, all depending on where you live. If you live south of Hernando County, you can start a little bit earlier. If you're up in the Panhandle in Jacksonville, you're going to wait until a little bit later because you're going to get cold weather until a bit later. But you can start right now is when you want to start seeds for tomatoes, peppers, eggplants, all those things that you're going to transplant in early March. And
don't wait too late.
Yeah, you don't want to wait until too late. You want to get an early start. Hopefully, we will not get any really late freezes and frosts, but I can't guarantee that. So it's always a little bit of a gamble, a little bit of a roll of the dice. Is it safe this weekend to plant everything? And then you watch the news and next weekend you get a bad freeze. It happens. It's happened to me many times over the years.
I guess you can cover your baby plants, your vegetables that you have planted if we get a freeze.
Sure, you can cover them with a blanket. You can cover them with buckets. I know people, especially if you have small transplants in the garden, you can cover them with empty 3-gallon pots. Anything to keep the cold off of them, and they should be fine. But yeah, this month is when you need to have your plan in place, and I need to work on my plan, I think, a little bit harder. But I've got tomatoes started. I've got peppers that are coming up. I got eggplants. I need to transplant them and take good care of them until it comes time for me to stick them in the garden. But yeah, we're coming up into the very, very busy time of year for the vegetable garden. And we got a question from Bassam about how about the grapes? Busy time of year for grapes also, because here in Central Florida, just about the only grapes that are going to do well are muscadine grapes. And you need to go out there and prune them. Probably now is my guess. If you look online under University of Florida muscadine grapes, they do have some really good fact sheets that have diagrams and pictures and show you exactly how to prune those vines. There's a very certain specific way. You want to prune all the old twiggy growth back and keep just the big main vine. And then really soon in the spring, you're going to get a flush of new growth off that vine. It's going to flower, you're going to get grapes, and you're going to get a good crop this year. But you have to prune off all the old growth because I believe muscadines flower and fruit on the brand new growth. So like I said, look online, University of Florida muscadine grapes, and look up that fact sheet, and it's got pictures and diagrams. If you need more information, you can call the office, give the office a call, and ask for Teresa. She's the one who's going to be answering the phone anyway. And
there's different varieties of muscadine.
Yeah, there's at least a dozen different varieties. You have black ones, more purplish ones, white or kind of silver ones.
Yeah. One of them starts with an I or something. They kind of mix that with the darker ones to make different wines around here.
Yeah, and then some of them are better for making wine than others. University of Florida has a whole list of all the ones that are going to do well here. And if you want them for fresh eating, some varieties are better. If you want it just for wine, other varieties are a little bit better for that. So if
why can't I grow Concords or other types of grapes, Dr. Lester?
The problem with all those Concord grapes and Thompson seedless and the red seedless and European wine grapes and Chardonnay and oh gosh, I don't know how many different types of grapes there are in the world, but there's a lot. All the European ones are a slightly different species. And if you grow them here in Central Florida, we have an insect called the Glassy winged Sharpshooter. And it's a plant hopper. It's a little bug, and it has a really cool name, and it's a plant hopper. And it will vector bacterial disease. It's on its mouth. So when it pokes into your grapevine, it gives it a bacterial disease called Pierce's disease. And it plugs up the xylem, which is the tissue inside of a plant that moves water up and down. And your grapevine will die, but it will get really, really dried out. It looks like you hit it with a flamethrower. It looks so brown and dried and crunchy. And that's because it died from Pierce's disease.
Like most of my yard right now.
What's that?
Like most of my yard right now.
Yeah.
That you won't let me prune yet.
There are parts of my yard that are brown and crunchy also, but resist that temptation, except on certain plants. Until a little bit later, once we're a little bit more sure that the really cold weather has passed and gone. Because if you prune those things too early and we do get a bad freeze, it could kill them all the way to the ground. So let's go
ahead.
March
15th is a good rule of thumb for when you can start pruning, but it's not a guarantee that there won't be a freeze after that.
Yes, I think the general rule of thumb is what, St. Patrick's Day, middle of March?
Yeah.
Although that's, there is no guarantee, and winter, wet, and spring weather has always been touch and go for many, 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 many years. I read on Facebook about a week or so ago, it was the 110th anniversary of a huge freeze that killed all the citrus industry in Orlando. And I mean, keep in mind, back then, Orlando, there was maybe, I don't know, a couple thousand residents.
Yeah.
And earlier in that winter, over 100 years ago, they had a really bad freeze that damaged all the citrus trees very, very badly. It was followed up by another freeze a little bit later that completely killed the citrus trees, wiped out the citrus industry for 10 years from Central Florida north. The population of Orlando dropped by about half because everybody just up and moved. The citrus industry was dead.
Right, they moved further south.
Yeah. Further in South Florida, it wasn't nearly as badly damaged, but they used to grow citrus as far north as Gainesville until they learned every 20, 30, 40 years, you're going to have a horrible freeze. It's going to wipe out those trees that are farther north of a certain line, generally south of Orlando, and they've quit doing that. But now from Orlando north, instead of citrus, it's all subdivisions.
Well, in our lifetime, Bill, we knew when there was a lot of citrus trees in Orlando. We're both, we've been here long enough that we remember. Of course, you kind of lived over there. You didn't go that way, but from here, everything from Groveland to Disney World was citrus trees. Till about, I'd say, the late 90s, probably. 1990s, not 1890s.
Well, it was the late 80s with the freezes they had back then.
Yes.
That put a lot of growers in a precarious position financially. And then, of course, when the area started to grow,
sure,
you're a citrus grower and you're offered a really fantastic price for 100 acres they want to build houses on, you're going to.
And it's not like you have Social Security. You were, had your own business. So, of course, they, that was their retirement.
Sure. They retired and went fishing.
Yeah. Well, they went to the villages, maybe. Which probably also had been citrus groves. Hi, Bill and Lily. Hi, Facebook user. I think we
from
know who that
a
one
Facebook
is.
user. And Facebook user has another question here. What's the best fertilizer for my potted strawberry plant? Most any all-purpose or general-purpose fertilizer is going to work well. For a liquid fertilizer, any kind of Miracle Grow or Peter's Plant Food is going to work. If you have it growing out in a raised bed, granular 666 or 10-10-10 is going to work well. Strawberries like to be fertilized fairly heavily, not real heavy, but they like fertilizer, steady fertilizer. And they should be doing really, really well this time of year. You should be, if you're growing strawberries, you should be getting a harvest now.
No, it's funny to me. It's because I've lived here probably going on 43 years, but still have a lot of family and a lot of connections in southwestern Pennsylvania. So I've gone up there in June, and they're just talking about picking strawberries, and that messes with my mind so much. Like, what? Strawberries are way done. And I imagine those who come up north have the, opposite. Like, what? Strawberries already? So.
Yeah, right now is pretty much peak season for homegrown strawberries. Commercially, it's the peak season also, but if the crop is doing really well, the price is about to crash. So in the not too distant future, commercial strawberry growers won't be making much money off their strawberries, and they'll plow them under and replant with other spring vegetables, things like
they'll go to U-Picks. They'll go to U-Picks for a couple weeks. Yeah.
Yeah. So the commercial strawberry growers will finish up with strawberries not before the plants are done producing, but when the price crashes.
Right.
So for homeowners, your plants are going to keep producing until we get into warm weather. I would guess March or so is when they should be taking a dive.
Well, and also that same thing would occur with blueberries. We had the April blueberry market, the Florida blueberry growers. As soon as May rolls around and Georgia's market opens up, that's when our market is like, okay, done. We're done. There's no more money to be made because we're not the only game in town. And then they would open it up to U-Picks for a week or two and then change their, well, in that case, you can't change a blueberry field, but move on to something else. So.
Yeah, a lot of them are doing the kind of mixed where early in the season they pick and ship and sell at grocery stores, and then later in the season they open it up just to U-Pick, because local residents are still going to go out there and pick blueberries and still pay, a good price. And so yeah, really helps out the growers.
And it's a fun, socially distant activity, so you can get the family outside.
Exactly. Stay away from everybody else and let them pick on, one row and you pick on the next row. Okay, we got a question here from Susan about, do you recommend potatoes? I stuck one in a pot and it's vining, so I suspect it's a sweet potato. I replanted it out back. So with potatoes, we have potatoes, regular potatoes, and we have sweet potatoes. Both can be planted right now. Technically, it's a tiny bit late for planting regular potatoes, but if you hurry, you can go out there and plant regular potatoes, because commercial, over in the eastern side of the state around St. Augustine and north of there up around Hastings and that general area, they grow a ton of potatoes. As a matter of fact, a lot of the potatoes that end up in your potato chips are grown in Florida. And they grow a lot in the fresh market also.
We thought they were all Idaho.
No, just the specific big white baking potatoes are. A lot of the red potatoes and gold potatoes are grown right here in Florida. And they plant them kind of a weird time of year, like late January, I believe. So if you hurry, you can still stick some potatoes in the ground and get them to grow now and harvest them around March or so, I believe, is when they harvest them commercially. Yours might be a little bit later. But yeah.
If they are sweet potatoes, those are one of our very few plants you can grow through the summer.
Yes, sweet potatoes. And they are really easy to grow. You plant them in the spring It's a little early to put them in right now, but you can put them plant them in the ground in March and just let them grow and vine all summer long. They have a few pests. They get a beetle, sweet potato weevil, one or two other problems. They're usually pretty carefree. Let them grow all summer long, and they're going to vine and grow all over your yard. In the fall, around Halloween, you can start digging around the base of the plants, and you'll feel sweet potatoes. I grew them once before, a pretty small patch, and I got probably 2 bushels of sweet potatoes. And they were really good, too.
What did you do with them?
Very low maintenance, and I appreciate that.
We're having a class coming up on March 10th, Bill and I, incorporating edibles into your Florida-friendly yard. So that's going to be something new and different on the Florida-friendly side anyway. And I think what Bill has in mind is teaching us how to tuck in those vegetables among your landscape plants. So you don't necessarily have to like have a garden plot. And so then pretty much anybody could do that. Is that what you're thinking of, Bill?
Sure. Well, whether you have a dedicated vegetable garden or you're just growing in containers around your pool or balcony, and I think we even got a question here about that, about growing vegetables or flowers on an apartment balcony, or whether it's tucking edibles in with your landscaping if you live in a homeowners association where you're really not allowed to just plow up your whole front yard and plant corn. That will get you in trouble in the homeowners association. So we don't recommend that. If you live way out in the country and you want to plow up your whole front yard and plant corn, I think that's great. If you get a good crop of corn, let me know. I mean, we do take donations at the office, always appreciated. But if you're not able to do that, there are a lot of ways that you can grow edible plants and kind of tuck them in and mix them in with your landscaping bushes and your flowers and everything else you have growing in your yard. But Susan, who's a regular, good morning, Susan, asks, is it possible to successfully grow vegetables or flowers on an apartment balcony with a northern exposure? A peace lily and small palm are doing well inside near a window.
A peace lily doesn't want a lot of sun.
Yeah. They're one of the lowest light plants that you can grow. So the problem is almost all vegetables are going to need more sun than that. And if it is a 100% northern exposure, that means up on your balcony or right up against the wall of your house, it's going to stay in the full shade just about year round. For a little bit in the summer, it may, the sun may be directly overhead where it gets a little bit of sun, depending on the shape of your house and everything else. But almost all year long, it's going to be very, very shady in that spot. So vegetables aren't going to do well. Some flowers and other plants do well in fairly shady spots. Impatiens do well in a shady spot.
Caladiums
do very well in full shade.
Probably herbs need even more sun than that is offering, huh?
Yeah, most herbs really like full sun because most of the herbs that we grow, the most commonly grown herbs, are mostly Mediterranean, and it gets very sunny and very hot there, and the herbs just naturally like that. Mint is the exception. Mint likes it. So you may want to try mint, depending on how shady it is. It may do really well. It may not do quite as well. I'm able to grow mint because I have it in the backyard underneath some palm trees. So it gets a little bit of early morning direct sun, and then most of the rest of the day it's pretty shady or just speckled sunlight. So it does well in that situation. But experiment with some different things.
Or make a friend with someone up in an apartment on the other side of the building.
There you go. Say, I'll plan it and organize it, but you have to donate the sunny balcony.
Yes.
2 of us.
That's better than the gorilla planting in the parking lot that I was thinking about first.
And then a follow-up, Lori asks, what zone can you grow the sweet potatoes? Sweet potatoes grow from the Carolinas all the way through South Florida. If you live much south of Hernando County, I'm not positive how far south they'll do well. They are a tropical vegetable.
And they grow all summer long. They don't mind the heat, and like okra and stuff. And aren't they also an African plant? Which I know Africa is a huge continent, but
yeah,
but I don't know. We'd have to look that up.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're going to grow as far as South Florida. They don't grow them commercially down there. They are starting to grow them in Central Florida, over on the eastern side of the state. University of Florida has somebody with extension over there who's working with growers, kind of experimenting with sweet potatoes to see if they can grow them successfully. And yeah, Lori here is in zone 10, so that's south of here. That's South Florida.
Yeah.
So my guess is sweet potatoes would do well down there, and you can plant them right now.
If Teresa is watching, maybe she can look that up for us.
Yeah, Teresa has her hands full because
Ashley's
no chance to mention at the office, most of us don't have internet and don't have phone, except for Teresa, who has both internet and phone. So feel free to call the office. Teresa's phone is working.
Oh, that's interesting.
So Facebook user says they grow them in Broward, sweet potatoes. Yeah.
And maybe it's the variety of sweet potato.
Another idea for herbs is Bassam says oregano will do well in shade as well. So a lot of times it depends on just how shady it is. Shade comes in different degrees.
50 shades of shade.
Exactly. So it can be really, really shady. It could be shady for most of the day or part of the day. Speckled sun through trees is difficult to measure because it depends on how much sun is speckling through the trees. Pine trees are thinner than oak trees, and oak trees that are pruned are thinner than oak trees that are not pruned. So when somebody says that I have a shady yard, I have to ask them, well, just how shady is shady? So, Lily, I think you wanted me to share a couple pictures that you wanted to talk about here.
Good. With my pruning-itis that I have.
Exactly. So let me go ahead and see if I can find them. Here's some pictures from Lily. These are from your yard?
Yes, I took them this morning.
Okay. That looks like a fire bush that got frozen during the winter, just like mine in my backyard did.
You are correct. So I guess I noticed this morning the new growth coming up, so that made me happy through the mulch there. But I was concerned about where the bark has come off, and I learned about that sort of last week when we did this with Frank Galdo. He mentioned that, and that plant is facing the east, that if there's a freeze and then the eastern sun comes up like too quickly and kind of beams down on it, that can cause some of that bark loss. So, I feel good about the new growth, but what's going on with that, the bark coming off the original stem there? It's a baby firebush. I only planted it last fall.
Oh, are you asking me?
Yeah.
Oh.
You don't know?
No, what I suspect is that branch froze and died all the way down to ground level. So my guess is that branch will not be coming back. Because on a firebush and a lot of other plants, if a branch freezes and dies, the leaves turn brown, then the leaves fall off, and over time the bark will fall off, and the inner stem that branch will eventually fall over. But that's fine because you have that new growth that's coming back from ground level that's going to very quickly grow and replace the old branch there.
All right. So should I cut that old branch off or leave it alone for now?
You can leave it alone for a little bit longer. Eventually, during March, it's going to become really obvious if it's going to come back or not. So if bark continues to fall off, and you can scrape the branch with your thumbnail.
I did. It's brown. It's brown.
Yeah. If it's really brown underneath, that's really, really common with fire bushes. They'll lose a lot of branches down to the ground, but they're pretty amazing because they immediately start with that new growth at the ground level. And even though it looks really small right now,
oh yeah,
gosh, by beginning of April, it'll grow up and it'll start flowering.
Yeah, it's like I said, I planted these kind of late and they were small. So what I'm kind of excited about with this new growth, which I think is kind of protected by the mulch there, I did move the mulch away from it a little, is that it'll have time to get a decent size because it grows so quickly before next year's cold snaps.
Mm-hmm.
So
it can get back to about 6 feet.
Yeah, it was never that tall to begin with, so hopefully it'll have time now to do so.
Ones that people either prune back or they get frozen back so that they have to prune them way back will generally end up being about 6 feet tall. If we have a warm winter and your fire bush is 6 feet tall and really doesn't freeze back, or only freezes back maybe a tiny bit, you just need to trim it up a little bit and clean it up. If it starts at 6 feet, it'll get to be 10 feet by the end of that summer. Mm-hmm. So keep that in mind. They can get very, very large. I've seen them in Gainesville. Those things must have been like 12 feet tall.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they're huge fire bushes.
And this is the, I just lost it, but the Jimenez. It is the native fire bush. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got it from Rita, so I know that it is patens, Hamelia patens. That's the native one, which does not get as big or isn't as aggressive as the non-native ones, but can still grow pretty tall pretty quickly. So that's good. You know, it's like I use these freezes to start all over again in the spring.
Yeah.
It's what they do up north, and nobody fusses too much about it up there. So, you know.
Yeah, it kind of forces you to start over in the spring.
Yeah.
So we have another bush here.
Yeah, that is just a Yopon, a dwarf Yopon holly. And it has those little webby looking things, which I know you know what those are.
They look like spider webs.
Mm-hmm. Sort of, but they're like fluffier than spider webs. And you can only really see it in the morning sun. You know, the eastern sun is kind of shining through it.
Mm-hmm.
So what do I have there, Dr. Lester?
A little hard to see from the picture. I guess some kind of spider web.
But it's like patchy all over. Is it spider mites, maybe?
No, spider mites go away over the winter.
Okay.
They like it really hot. So spider mites are a big problem during the hottest time of summer. Now you can get them on house plants in the middle of winter because your house, you know, it stays a reasonable temperature. Mm-hmm. But outdoors, you pretty much never see really active spider mites in the winter.
So if they're spider webs, I have nothing really to worry about.
No. That's just little spider webs, and they'll get moisture and dew in them. That's why they kind of look bright white and are really noticeable early in the morning. And then they'll go away during the day. But yeah, you just have spiders. Spiders are great. Spiders are really important in the environment. Leave them alone. Don't worry about spiders. And oh my, that doesn't look really good.
Which one is that? Is that, I can't hardly see it with the sun. Is that my firecracker bush?
Yes, it is.
Yes. Okay. I'm showing you the one that was in the microclimate feet away that turned out okay, and then the one that was zapped. And I've never seen firecrackers get zapped by the cold.
I've had them before where they would get a lot of dieback and freeze damage over the winter. It would never kill them, but you
Okay.
have to go through and trim out all the dead stuff, and they can be really thick.
Can I do that now? Can I do it now? Can I do?
You probably want to wait at least a few weeks.
Oh.
And then watch the weather, and then whenever you want to gamble that we're not going to have any more freezes, then it's safe. So
But for now that ugliness is actually protecting any new growth that wants to come up, correct?
Yeah, the dead brown stuff is protecting the new growth, and you can see that new growth down underneath, and it's just starting to grow and poke up. If we have no more really bad freezing weather, that the new growth is just going to keep growing. It'll do just fine. You can leave the brown frozen dead growth on there to help protect it a little bit longer. And then pick a weekend at some point in March and go through and just get everything cleaned up. Everything that needs to be trimmed back because it's near a doorway or a window or it's blocking a sidewalk, go ahead and try to do it all then. Try to do it just once. And then just leave everything alone, let it all grow back. Because I see a lot of people that they have their service out there every month and they prune and trim and snip, snip, snip. And then they wonder why their azaleas never bloom and why their hibiscus never blooms. It's because you keep cutting the flowers off. So we have a question here from Sid Taylor, who's one of our regular viewers. And she's asking about, will that class be here on Facebook on March 10th?
I'll send you the link, Sid. How's that? It'll be via Zoom, and the link to it will be on Facebook. And then if you happen to miss it, there will be a recording probably that afternoon on my Facebook page, and Bill will share it on his. And within a few days after that, it will be on Hernando County Government YouTube channel. The cool thing about it showing up on the YouTube channel is, for those of you who don't like Facebook, it'll be on YouTube for you to watch. Also, YouTube is where my shows, anyway, my classes are closed captioned. So if you are in need of that, go to the YouTube channel to see my classes closed captioned.
And if you're ever curious about what kind of classes we have coming up, and are they going to be on Facebook? Are they going to be on Zoom? Where can I watch it? How do I watch it? If you just go to www.hernandoextension.com, we have a full listing of our classes there. And let's go ahead and take a look at that, because I keep telling everybody about that page.
Sid was a forester, by the way, Bill.
I know.
Yeah, okay.
She's one of our local foresters.
She's retired.
Okay. Was Sid with FWC or Florida Forestry?
You would have to ask her.
One
of those two. She was at Tillis Hill.
Yes. We work with both. So
yes.
Here we go. If you can see this, okay, if you go to hernandoextension.com, you can see all of our upcoming events. So for example, Lily has a class coming up on February 17th on native plants for formal landscapes. And there's some information. And if you want to join, there is the link right there. When the time comes, you can click on that link, go right in. Shortly after that, we have a class creating a backyard habitat with native plants. And that's going to be taught by our master gardener, Rita Grant. And
that is a fantastic photo you chose for that class, Bill.
Yes, it is. You remember that day up there in Gainesville at Wilmot Gardens?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
He steals my photos all the time. It's all right.
Hey, it was in my OneDrive. I was looking for a picture. It's like, yeah, that's cool. But as you can see, this is a free class on Zoom, but advanced registration is required. So if you click on that link, that takes you to where you can register, and Zoom will email you the link for you to join. when the time comes on February 23rd at 10 a.m. Our other agents are busy doing a lot of other activities also. For anybody interested in horseshoe crab citizen science training, don't ask me questions about that. That's the area that our Sea Grant agent or marine biologist, Brittany, handles. She has a citizen science program where they catch and tag horseshoe crabs, which looks like a lot of fun. Might be a little chilly right now, but soon it'll be nice.
It does, and I would consider doing that if it wasn't the same time as my class.
Maybe she can record it for you. You know,
Maybe.
if you ask her, she could.
Yeah.
If it's on Zoom, that's easy enough to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have other classes, bugs that bite, sting, or taste you. And coming up in a few weeks, we have 2 days in a row our So You Have 5 Acres workshop. We have a lot of people who've just moved here and they have 5, 10 acres and they want to start a small farm. They want to start raising livestock, maybe goats or something else. This is a great way for you to get started because the first day we have Matt Smith, who's going to talk about everything you need to know if you're thinking or kicking around the idea of starting your own farm or nursery. And then the next day we have Laura Bennett, who is our multi-county livestock agent. So if you want to start any kind of pasture and raise horses or cattle or goats or anything else that eats pasture grass, I guess.
I got a voicemail last week. A gentleman said he found my name and number on SwiftMud's site, but he was asking questions about fertilizing for a horse pasture. So I just sent that right on to Laura, and she took care of it.
If you ever email me about fertilizing your pasture, I will forward it to Laura. So, yes. But Laura's really good. She'll get right back to you. And because I know how to fertilize your home Bahia lawn, but you're going to do that differently than if you have a 10-acre horse pasture with Bahia grass. And then we have another compost bin and rain barrel workshop coming up, don't we?
We do.
Okay.
And if you want to find out about that, the rain barrels, you do have to attend the workshop. The rain barrels are $50. If you are a customer of Hernando County Utilities for your water, you will get a $25 credit one time, for attending the workshop and taking a rain barrel home. We also include a compost workshop, and through the Solid Waste Division, Hernando County residents, only Hernando County residents, are given a free compost barrel for attending the workshop. So we've combined the workshops. You can attend both, or you can attend just the rain barrel one. You can attend just the compost one. The workshop itself will be that Thursday evening, 25th, and via Zoom. Then the following Saturday, we'll go to the Hernando County Master Gardener Volunteer Nursery to pick up your items. But the first step is to email me to get all of the information. So email me at, can you show my email?
Sure.
There we go. Lily B with 2 L's in the middle. HernandoCounty.us. That's the first step, and I'll send you the information. Keep trying, because there's a little bit of a hang up with my email, because I tell you to send me a check, and when you respond, my the county's security system kind of blocks it as fraud. So we're working on that. But keep trying, or answer me in a separate email to make sure it gets through, and I'll be glad to give you that information about how to send in the check and all of that.
Okay. We have another question from Susan here, and I just checked my email. I didn't get the picture, but she said this is still an easy question to answer. I just sent a picture of my dying lavender that I just replanted. If I cover it with dirt, will the remaining branches take root? Lavender does not grow well in Central Florida. Lavender grows much better further up north. They grow commercially, I think, in Oregon and
Washington
places like
State.
that, Washington State. The summertime weather here, the heat and humidity, absolutely hammers lavender. I know some people are able to grow it, and some people say there's certain varieties that do better. At best, you're always going to be fighting it, and it's always going to be a struggle. If you take the dying lavender plant and cover it with dirt, there's a good chance that it will root out, but growing it long term is going to be an uphill battle. It is not an easy plant to grow here in Central Florida.
That's one of those unpopular things. People just don't want to hear that one.
Oh my gosh, people move here from other states, and I had a lady call me once before, and she had just moved to Citrus County, and she said, I really want to grow bananas and papayas. I said, well, you're a little far north for them. They're probably going to freeze in the winter. She said, okay, great. I want to grow apples. I said, you're too far south for apples. Apples, even though there's a few varieties they say can grow in Central Florida, my experience is maybe every couple years you'll get lucky and get a few apples the size of crab apples. And that's, if you're expecting big crops of like grocery store sized and looking apples, it is not going to happen here in Central Florida. Now,
you're really experimenting.
That they've been successful with apples, but it's just a really, really difficult struggle. And the problem with that is we always caution people, because if you don't know and you're trying to grow something that's just not going to do well here, and it starts to not do well here, what are you going to do? You're going to like put more water on it, more fertilizer, you're going to spray it with pesticides, and that's not going to make it do well. That's not going to change our summer weather here. And now you just put a bunch of water, you wasted water, you put fertilizer and pesticides in the environment, and none of which is going to save the lavender or the apple or the thing that's just not going to do really well here.
They say, you know, the Israeli varieties do well, and I always kind of wonder about that because, I mean, I haven't been to Israel, but as far as I know, it's all desert. I mean, are there any humid places like here where we don't have the same climate as Israel?
Well, that's the problem, because they are low chill apples, so they don't need a whole lot of cold weather in the winter. So most winters here satisfy that requirement. You go, okay, well, they're low chill. Hernando County is a low chill county, so you know that works out fine. The problem is during the summer, when the heat and humidity and at late in the day rain sets in, they get a ton of fungal leaf spots, and they'll lose a lot of leaves. They get spots on leaves. You will have to use a lot of fungicides on them. So if you're thinking that you're going to grow apples organically here in Hernando County, it's probably not going to happen. So if you want to,
and there are a lot of cedar trees around here.
Sure, it could get apple cedar rust. There are insect pests that you're going to have to deal with also, but really those leaf spots are the potentially terminal problem. Because what happens is the trees are going to get a lot of spots on leaves, and they're going to fall prematurely. And then every year the tree is going to get weaker and weaker, and it might hold on for a couple of years before it gives up the ghost, but it will die, or you will get frustrated and pull it up and replace it with something after a couple of years.
If you want a nice white blooming tree, if that's what you're looking for, you know, Chickasaw plum would do that for you in the spring. What other kind of ideas?
Well, we do have varieties of peaches, plums, and nectarines that grow well here if you get the right variety. They're low chill also.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying if you're looking for that spring blooming, you know, from a prunus type.
They
variety.
Right.
Okay.
So if you have a peach, plum, or nectarine, it should be blooming right now. Low pots bloom in the fall, but that's another fruit tree that's going to do well here, and it's very low care, low maintenance.
I only lived up north for my first 11 years, but even I, you know, can't, you know, people say, oh, I missed my crabapple trees. They were so pretty. And like, really? Because I just remember sliding on all the gross rotted crab apples.
We had one in our front yard in Maryland when I was growing up, and it would dump like 3 inches of crab apples all over the
Yeah.
ground, and wasps loved them.
Oh, I'm
So you'd
sure.
have squishy crab apples and millions of wasps. So not a good combination.
No.
So Sid says thanks, and Sid was with Florida Forest Service
Okay.
or Forestry. So thank you,
Yes,
Sid.
did email me to ask for that link for the class you asked about, so I don't forget. Because when I go inside, I'm going to walk through several doorways, and doorways suck my memory. So.
So Susan also asks, I heard that chlorinated water will destroy some plants like the day avocado and all the basil plants I ever bought. Generally, no, because technically chlorine is an essential plant nutrient, but plants need it in really, really tiny amounts. I've never heard of a chlorine deficiency in a plant where you have to actually treat it with chlorine. But, well, Lily, you work for the utilities department.
I don't know that much about what I have heard other master gardeners say to do, though, is if that's a concern to you, the water you're going to water your basil with or whatever, just leave it out, in your container for like an hour or so and let the chlorine gas off, and you should be pretty good then. Well, obviously we do add chlorine so, people don't die. But Hernando County Utilities doesn't add fluoride or some of the other things, but that's what I would do, is just let it gas off and not be as strong.
Yeah, you guys don't seem to over chlorinate the water either. I enjoy drinking it, so it's not overly chlorinated. And I've had fish ponds in the past, like front yard garden ponds with nothing special, mostly different types of goldfish in it. And when I had to add water to it, you fill a bucket of water and you let it sit for a day or so, and the chlorine dissipates out of it very quickly, and then it's safe to dump in. Because you couldn't use straight tap water in the pond. It could kill the fish. But that was over in Volusia County, and they used a lot of chlorine in their water. So nothing personal
Our
against
water,
County, just
our
my
water,
opinion.
our water has 1 blind taste tests.
Yeah, and I drink tap water here all the time, whereas in Volusia County, I really couldn't because I could taste the chlorine. Just personal opinion. And Susan asked, what about passion flower or passion vine? Oh my gosh, yes, it grows like a weed here.
Oh, yeah. Yes, and you'll be glad when it freezes back.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
You can start all over again.
It naturally completely dies to the ground in the winter and then comes right back from the ground.
I should have some behind me. But I only just planted it in the fall, but I have every hope that it's going to grow back. It froze, but it's going to grow back and cover this fence. I'll come back out when the fence is covered with it. Probably by July.
And apparently Sid liked crab apples.
Okay.
I'm sure, I know that you can use them in recipes. I'm sure you can eat them. When I was a kid, we never thought of that.
Right.
And we didn't eat them. But I had neighbors who had apple trees and several different kinds of pear trees, and they were all edible. I mean, you just pluck the.
Well, I think my mother made pies and canned some of them and stuff, but there's only so much you can do.
Yeah. Yeah, and going back to the water, Sid said, just set a bucket of water out to oxidize out the chlorine before watering with it. And Susan said, yeah, good, because she was told to let it sit for 24 hours. So if you are concerned about chlorine in the water, if you just let it sit for 24 hours or so, the chlorine volatilizes or vaporizes or leaves the water. So I don't see too many other questions here, and it looks like it's just about that time. Boy, isn't this great how the timing usually works out pretty well?
We're getting good at this.
I know.
I
Even
think they
though,
missed you last week, Bill, though. Oh, you were there. You were the man behind the curtain, but you were pretending you weren't there. Because he doesn't trust me to completely run his program, apparently.
no, we'll let you completely run it. Not the one coming up on April 1st, though. We are going to think up some plans for our 1-year anniversary show.
That should be, yeah, we can have fun with that. I still have those 35 uses of vinegar I wanted to go over.
So let's go ahead and show. Once again, if you're wondering about any of our upcoming classes, what we have to offer, and how to log on, just go to hernandoextension.com, and it's all right there. As soon as we plan out a class and put it up on Facebook, it automatically posts to that website. So you can follow our Facebook pages also and look under events, and they're all listed there. But for anybody who might not have Facebook, this is a freestanding way. You don't have to join. You don't have a password or anything. And if you want to contact the office, like I said, the last I heard, I still have no internet or phone service at the office, but Teresa does. So if you have a question, go ahead and call that number, and Teresa will answer. And if you want to email me directly, there is my email. It's nice and short and sweet, wlester@ufl.edu. And here's Lily's email. It's a lot longer than mine, harder to remember, I think.
I don't control that.
Okay. We got one last question here, and this goes back to the passion fruit or passion vine. Is it ornamental, or does it produce passion fruit here? I used to help Mom make crabapple jelly. So I guess we're still going back to the crab apples also. Yeah, I'm sure you can make really great jelly out of crab apples.
Yeah.
I never tried. And I'm sure if you add enough sugar, it would taste good, because sugar seems to cure everything.
Well, also, you got out of there, the second you were an adult, you came to Florida. So,
yeah.
As far as the passion vine, I don't know if there is, certain varieties that grow the fruit and some that don't. I think it's just a hit and miss. And what happens up here anyway is they do freeze back maybe before they've had the chance to grow a fruit. But they are fantastic for your Gulf fritillary and your zebra longwing butterflies.
I know that the native one here that gets the purple flowers, which is what I have in my backyard, does occasionally get fruit, not a lot.
Yeah.
They're edible. They're not going to hurt you. They're not poisonous. I'm not sure how good they are. There are other varieties that they grow commercially for the fruit. And down in South Florida, believe it or not, down in Homestead, because I've seen it, they grow certain varieties of passion fruit down there, and they grow them on specialized trellises, and they grow like weeds there, and they get tons of passion fruit.
Well, that's
if you go to the store, you look at the refrigerated juice with cartons of orange juice, and you see all the passion fruit mixtures. That's where that passion fruit juice comes from, is South Florida. So you can grow them here, but I'm not an expert on which variety can grow commercially and get reliable fruit production.
I would be concerned with any of the non-native passion vines because they do have a lot of invasive potential. Like even the more ornamental ones, the ones that give you like the yellow and red, twin flower type and all that, very invasive. Now, some people may be thinking, well, I think the native is pretty invasive. It's not really, because it's what we call pioneering.
It's aggressive, not
invasive. It's aggressive. But because up here it gets froze back every winter, it's not going to take over your entire world. Plus, it doesn't outcompete other native plants. It's very aggressive, that's true. And so, if you put it on a trellis or something, it better be a good wooden, sturdy trellis, because it'll bring one of those plastic things right down. And maybe avoid having it at your front door or on your front porch because, in the middle of summer, you'll be needing a machete to get through it. But I would stick with the purple native varieties.
Yeah, and Sid points out, yes, that does get edible fruit.
Oh, that's right. Sid, we need to get her on to do an edible, the incredible edibles classes.
Yeah, oh, she knows a lot more about that topic than I do.
Yes, yes.
And also, there are varieties of passion vine that do not produce fruit. There is that variety that gets the red flowers that the caterpillars do not feed on.
Right. So they're useless.
It gets pretty red flowers,
yeah.
but you're not going to help out your caterpillar and butterfly population with that one.
Nor will you help, like your bird population, have some yummy food to give to their babies.
Yes,
because of the caterpillars.
Caterpillars are bad, but they're very important for birds, especially in the spring when they're laying their eggs. They eat a lot more insects for the extra protein. The lizards, everything else in your yard that eats insects.
Did you see what I sent you or about lizards or what I posted about it? Something very interesting because I know you've been to a certain extremely large community that may be a little north of here in Central Florida. And the people there ask you how to get rid of lizards, and I know that upsets you. So I just read something very interesting. We've always known, I've known one person who got Lyme disease and never left Florida, but it is nowhere near as prevalent as it is north of here. North really of the Virginia line and on up, the deer ticks are more well known for people to get Lyme disease than they are here. And one of the ways they've done some studies, and I think they might have figured this out, is that the deer ticks up north, they're going to get their blood meal or whatever from mice, rabbits, other little mammals. You get the disease and come and give it to you. What happens south of that Virginia line is the ticks, for some reason, seem to prefer, or they go for the lizards, which there are more lizards in Florida and Georgia than, further north. They go for the lizards to bite, and the lizards, they don't get that disease from them. So, and then they come bite you, it's not that big of a deal. So, the next time, for those of you who for some reason don't like lizards around your house, we both lived here long enough, it's like no big deal, we don't even notice them. Just know that all things, have a purpose. And that's, thank the next lizard you see.
Exactly. So technically, they are helping to protect you from Lyme disease.
Yes.
Plus,
they don't know it.
Insects, and they're a very important part of the
anything that eats roaches is a good friend of mine.
Exactly, and lizards gobble up roaches, and they gobble up stuff out in your flower beds before they sneak into your house. So look at it that way also. So we'll go one more quick question from Sid here, and then we'll call it a wrap for today. Sid asks, here's a question for next time. Okay, thank you. If I have to research this one, it gives me some time. As I know you're out of time, the stupid lizard killing comment reminded me. What do the Indo-Pacific geckos in my house find to eat? Fruit flies?
No idea.
I'm not really sure. I'm going to have to look that up. I know that the anoles that all of us have in our yard, they're either Cuban anoles or native green anoles, one or the other, the kind of standard little lizard. They gobble up any appropriate sized insect they can find. So, they're not, if it's a little lizard, they're not going to chase down a huge insect. But if it's an appropriate sized insect, they're going to catch it and eat it. My guess is
silverfish, who knows?
If they survive and do okay, they're finding insects in your house. And we all have some insects in our house.
Yeah, it could be silverfish. Could be any number of things.
Mm-hmm.
I have daddy long legs all over my house.
They will outdoors catch and eat little flies.
Mm-hmm.
If you sit outside enough, you'll find them kind of sneak up on a fly. They jump, they snap. They're pretty amazing at trying to catch things. They don't always get them, but they try. So my guess is if they keep trying, they're going to eventually get them. Yeah, we'll have to look into what do lizards eat inside your house. And Sid, that gives you a good reason to tune in again next week.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, thank you so much, everybody. As always, we really appreciate it. Everybody keep tuning in, and go ahead and put on your calendars for April 1st. I don't know what we're doing yet, but it's going to be a really, really special show. I can guarantee you that much right now.
Don't be fooled. That's what it can be called.
Yeah, no, that's a good theme. That's really perfect, because April Fool's Day, and we'll have been doing this for 1 year, and that'd be great. Everybody start putting it on your calendars, and we'll start planning something out. So with that, thanks again, everybody, and we will see you all again next week.
Thank you. Bye-bye.